Good day everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture I'll be showing you how to use the Petroleum Assay feature of Aspen Hysys, right? Now the Petroleum Assay is used to characterize and specify the properties of a crude oil feed stream, right? So if you want to do a crude oil simulation or a process that involves crude oil and you don't want to use the oil manager, right, you can also use the petroleum assay feature. So that is what this tutorial will be all about, right? So we are going to use it to specify the particular crude that we have right here, right? So some of the properties are here. So we are going to be using the petroleum assay found in the software to specify it. So for crude oil characterization, you could use the oil manager, right? But the petroleum assay in the navigation pane is another option that can be used for oil characterization, right? So in the case of petroleum assays, you may not necessarily need to specify the component lists or the fluid package, right? Especially if you are using, because when you want to specify with petroleum assay, you have three options. You either input the data yourself or you import your data, right? Or you use the crude specifications from the assay library, right? So any of those three options are available in this petroleum assay, and you don't need to specify your components or fluid package before you can use any of them, right? So if you want to use the petroleum assay, you simply click on it, ensure it's highlighted, then here you can click on okay, we have assay management. So make sure your petroleum assay is under assay management, right? In assay management, at the top left we have new assay, right? You can click on the drop down to specify which you want to use, right? So I said there are three options for petroleum assay. You have the import from library, import from file, and then manually enter, right? So manually enter is a case where you want to input the data manually, right? Then import from file is if you want to import a document that contains the crude oil characterization data, right, into the software. That's when you use import from file. Then import from library. Now Aspen Hysys has an already embedded database that contains characterized crude oils that are already in existence, right? Crude oils that have already been characterized, the crude oils we know in real life that have already been characterized. So Aspen Hysys has data for those crude oils, and they can be gotten from the import from library, right? So if you want to use the import from library, right, you simply click on it, then you choose which of the options you want for the assay components, right, depending on what you want to simulate, right? So for example, I can use the Celsius to 850 degrees Celsius, right, assay component Celsius to 850, and then I click OK, right? So in this case we are checking the Aspen database, that's the library, right? So now in this library you have crude oils, the different crude oils that exist in real life from all regions and all countries of the world, right? Crude oils that have been characterized in the past, right? Their data is here. So for example, if you want to use a crude oil from Nigeria, you can just you can go to all countries and search for Nigeria, You see Nigeria here, right? So all the crude oils that have been characterized that were found in Nigeria, right, they are right here. So you can search for any of them. You have here, we have Bonny Medium, we have Escravos, a lot of them are here. There is Agbami, right? So a lot of them are here. You have Bonny Light. So anyone you want to use, even if it's, for example, see the Kwa Iboe, you have the brass. Let me see. Yeah, you have the brass crude here. So any of the crude oils you want to use, you can just search for it. When you search for it, you click on it and then you click OK, right? So once you click on OK, it automatically attaches this crude to your simulation. So for example, if you click OK on this, right, automatically it has specified both the components and the fluid package, right? So using Petroleum Assay automatically specifies the components. Okay, so this is it. So it automatically specifies the components. If you check the component list, you will see all the components that are in the crude. Then the fluid package is also there, right? So this is for the use of the assay library, right? For assay library. But in our case, in this particular tutorial, we'll be using the manually enter option, right? So I'm just trying to show you how the assay library works. Now for the use of the assay library, once you specified which of the crude oils you want to use, automatically you would find the characterization of that particular crude. So we chose Bonny Medium, right? So the characteristics of Bonny Medium are already embedded in the software, right? Automatically you will be able to find it from the conventional results that you get under the Petroleum Assay, right? So you will be able to find the characteristics of that particular crude oil you chose from the assay library, right? So if you click on Flash Assay, you will see the true boiling point properties. Then let's see. Okay, these are the results. These are the results. Then you have the pure components, you have distillation, you have the property table, right? You have the property table. Then if you want to see plots, you can check the plots gallery here, right? If you click on cut yields, you get this. Let's go back. Let me see. Okay, yes, then you have distillations. So you see distillation plots. So all these, once you click on them, it creates tabs for each of them. So this is the tab for cut yield. If you want to exit it, if you want to exit the distillation plot, take you back to the conventional results. So you could see the data and then the plots for any crude oil you choose from the assay library, right? If you want to get details about that particular crude you chose via the region or where it was gotten from, you can click on the name of the crude, right? So it gives you details about it, the region, country, oil field, the assay ID, right? The characterization information, and then the dates when it was characterized and all that. So you have all this embedded in the Petroleum Assay feature, right? So this is for the import from library. Then import from file occurs in cases where you have data, characteristics data for crude oil, like you have characterization data for crude oil and you want to use it to simulate a process. You can actually import data, import files, right? So if you click on the plus sign, it gives you an opportunity to import a particular file into the software, right? So coming over to our main focus for today, it's the manually enter, which is what we are going to use to solve our problem, right? So for the crude oil we are trying to characterize, we have the standard density, we have the light ends, and then we have the assay and temperature, right? The true boiling point data over here. So this is what we'll be inputting into the software. So we are ready to input the crude oil data from our problem. So you left click on Petroleum Assay, then you click the drop down at new assay, you click manually enter, right? Then you click which of the segments you want to use for that particular simulation, right? So I'll be making use of the assay component Celsius to 850 degrees Celsius, right? Our data stopped at, our true boiling point temperature stopped at 516. So we can make use of this assay component Celsius to 850. Click on OK, right? So here you have different options for your assay codes, right? When you are specifying the assay percent and temperature, you have the multi-cut properties where you can specify your cuts in batches. Then you have single stream properties, right? Then you have back blending, which involves specifying your crude properties based on the characterization of the products or the fractions, right? So in this case I'll be making use of the single stream properties. So we click on it and then we enter the TBP data we have in our problem, right, which is this over here. So this is what we'll be entering in that particular space. So we have 0, then minus 12, then we have 4, I think. So you can edit the numbers in case they don't match the percentage numbers. In case they don't match what you have in your data, you can actually edit. So we have 432, then we have 974, 974 degrees Celsius. So if you want to increase the number of rows in your assay form, what you need to do is you highlight the last row and then you right click, right? So if you right click, it gives you the option to insert rows. So you can click on it, right, and insert more rows up to the number you want, right? So I'll be filling up more of the data. Now we are done entering the TBP data, right? So we can click OK on this. Now if you notice, if you go to the component list, you will see that components have already been added, right? Components have already been added and we did not add components initially, even the fluid package has been added as well. So that's one of the advantages of using the Petroleum Assay. It helps you specify your components and your fluid package automatically without you having to specify them. So now let's go back. Okay, now it says assay uncharacterized, right? So now we have specified the distillation data. Next is to specify the pure components, right? So from our simulation problem, we have these light ends, right? So we can specify these values in that pure components section. So we'll be adding some more. I think we'll add pentane and its isomer. So yes, we need to specify pentane. So I'll click on the add button here, and then I'll look for pentane. Okay, C1. Once you are done adding the other components you want to add, you can now input their values. So all the values of our light ends in liquid volume percent have been entered, right? So we have entered those values. Then what else can we specify? Let me see. Okay, we can specify some of the properties of the crude, like the standard density. Let me see. Okay, yes, so you can specify some of the characteristics of the crude, a lot of them actually, right? You can specify a lot of them depending on what you have. You have cut yield by weight, you have standard liquid density, you have sulfur by weight, kinematic viscosity, paraffins, naphthens, olefins, aromatics, pour point, freeze point, cloud point, smoke point, a lot of them, nitrogen by weight, vanadium, and then you can even add more, right? By clicking on add, you can add more. If there are other specifications that are not listed that you might want to add, you can add them from here, right? So in this case, the data we have is not so much. All we have here is the standard density, which is 29 API 60, right? So that is what we'll be specifying. So you have 29 API 60 for standard liquid density. So you have 29, then you search for API 60. Okay, so I'll just use API then. So 29 API 60. Sorry. Okay, let me just confirm. Yeah, so I'll just make use of API. No, that's a mistake. 29. Sorry. 29. 29. So now you specify all the properties of your crude, right? You specify all of them. Now when you are done specifying them, you would click characterize assay, right? Once you have specified the pure components, your distillation data, and then the properties of your crude, you specify all of them, then you click characterize, right? So the characterization would do the necessary calculations and then give you the summary of your characterized crude. So if you click on it, Hysys begins to do the calculations, right, in order to present data just like we had in the when we use the assay library, right? So it's going to give you similar data to what we had, right? So after it's been characterized, you get this OK message, right? So you can now check the conventional results. You see, so you have your standard density, then it's able to calculate the other values of the other properties that we did not specify, right? Though it will not give you all your values, like for example sulfur by weight, nitrogen by weight. You would have to specify such values by yourself, right? So it cannot generate how much sulfur is in your crude, right? You would have to specify how much sulfur is present in that crude via the experimental data you have. So now you have your results, right? Your characterization results. So you can check your properties, right? If you want to view inputs, you can click on view inputs, and then you can make changes, right? So you can edit, right? You can make changes to your input, and then after making changes you can still click on characterize again, so that it characterizes it with respect to the changes you have made. Right, so you see it has calculated it again. Then we are in the results section, right? We are in the results section of the characterization. Now if you want to check the plots, you can use the plot gallery, right, to see the different plots. This is the distillation plot, a plot of temperature against weight percent. Then you have the property plots, right? Each of the properties. Then you have, what else do you have? Let's see, you have the viscosity plots too. You have the viscosity plot. So depending on the data you want, you can check any of them here, either the plots or the tables that have been generated from the calculations, right? So now your crude has been specified and characterized as well, right? So if you want to now start your simulation, you can get into the simulation environment. So here you said it has, in case there are warnings about your characterization, you will get it from this message tab. So you click on it and then you read the warning and you make the necessary changes. So in this case it says there is no distillation input above 90%, and yes, it is true, because if you check our inputs, you see that we stopped at 80, right, based on our data, right? So your data may get above 90 or even close to 100, right? So but in this case we stopped at 80 because that is the data we have in this particular problem. So you can make, let's see, you can make changes based on the warning messages you get from here, and then when you have made those changes, you would have to characterize again, right, after making those changes, right? So but in a case where you have finished your characterization and everything is in order, you can then go into the simulation environment and you can start your simulation. Right now in this case, if this is your crude feed, right, your crude oil, let's say this is your crude oil feed. Now in this case you don't need to specify your composition per se. Let me see. All you need to do is to go to your petroleum assay and then click on attach existing, right? So when you click on it, it gives you the option of choosing the installed crude oil from your petroleum assay. So you click on it, you click on assay, right? Automatically, after you click on assay, your composition has been added. The composition of the crude has automatically been added. So all you need to do is to specify the conditions, maybe the temperature, pressure, then either the molar flow, mass flow, any of the conditions that will make the stream solve. So if you, for example, you specify temperature as 20 degrees, then you specify mass flow as 100, then you specify pressure, for example, as 1 atm, right? So you see that it solves, right? So in the case of petroleum assay, all you need to do is to install your already existing assay to that particular stream and then specify the conditions, right? Once you specify the conditions, it solves automatically, and you have your crude oil feed, which you can use to continue your simulation, right? And this is also the same procedure if you are using the library, right? So once you install the crude oil you want from the assay library and you get into the simulation environment, all you need to do is to attach existing and specify the process conditions, right? So that's it. And with that, we have come to the end of this particular lecture, right? I hope you gain knowledge from this lecture. If you have questions about the oil characterization with petroleum assays, you can drop your questions in the comment section. Then also, if you have maybe you have something you would like us to talk about, whether a feature in the software, in the Aspen Hysys software, or a particular simulation you would like to see on our page, you could also drop such hints in the comment section. Then you could like this video and then share to your friends, and subscribe if you haven't done so. See you in the next lecture. Thank you and have a nice day.